Alright guys, welcome to the second edition of our Wednesday clip show, which we're working on a new name. Maybe email us in your suggestion. But
that'd be good.
Aaron Macy from One to Follow, how are you?
Rather well. Yeah, getting there. Beautiful day in paradise once again.
Yeah, we're at another location at Coogee. So
Yeah.
Coogee Tourism have paid us well, but mate, you've been busy boy. You've been to a couple of trial meetings this week already.
Yeah, we had the trials at Randwick
Yeah.
and then again at Rose Hill today, which was busy, very busy. 15 sets of trials, trying to get a gauge on them, try and find a couple of winners.
Yeah, we'll
put food on the table for another week.
Exactly, and we'll get to a bit of a summary later on. On our show today, last week you would have seen Bjorn Baker as our feature interview. We've caught up with Brenton Avdulla at his restaurant, the Cubby House at the Spot in Randwick.
Yeah,
so that was a good chat, wasn't it?
Yeah, good little insight into the life of Brenton Avdulla.
Yeah. We've also got Nick Ashman again with the news and track work, and we're also going to have a chat to you about some of the horses to follow from the mounting yard last week. Top Better are doing a tournament. It's a $10,000 tournament, the guaranteed, minimum guarantee. So
Exciting times.
Grab your mates. It's $550 buy-in if you haven't won entry through already. But grab some of your mates, pull some money together, and take on the Glenster. The Glenster's put himself favourite once again. And
I think Glenn seems to mark himself favourite the most these little tournaments.
He has. He doesn't know the form. But he's going to have a crack, and he's going to be pretty confident.
Exactly.
The first thing we're going to do is going to throw to the news. You caught up with Nick Ashman this morning.
Yes, well the Cobalt saga continues and thickens once again, and there's like a funny little story with Rogie and some interesting stories in there what could change with ownership of horses.
Okay, let's have a look now.
We're going to kick off this morning with some of the news, and the Cobalt saga continues.
Darren's is on Wednesday, Darren Smith.
Yeah.
So he gets his verdict handed down from Judge Amati. Of course, they took submissions from both Darren and Racing New South Wales, or their respective legal representatives, of course, last Monday.
Yep.
And Judge Amati, my understanding is, announced that he was ready to hand down his verdict, and so we'll go in and hear it on Wednesday. And of course, the ramifications are pretty big both ways. One, will see us probably hear about a lot more Cobalt positives if it sticks.
Surely Sam can point the finger at Darren as well, couldn't he?
Yeah.
We'll just give him a little bit more.
Yeah. Sam's, I think, is August 3. It kicks off again.
Yep.
So we've got a little bit of a break there, but be very interesting to see what happens with Darren's, and of course, if it gets upheld and it gets, his appeal gets upheld, then we're probably looking at a lawsuit, aren't we?
Yeah, definitely.
So hopefully something sticks. Whether or not it's the full 15 years, I don't know. So basically there's three outcomes. I don't know if you're aware, but there's three outcomes. He either gets off altogether,
okay.
The 15
and
years
what are
sticks.
the chances of that?
Oh, look, I'd say hopefully, I think most of us feel like Darren should get something.
Yeah.
It's just whether it's just the way in which it's been done, where he was removed of his livelihood for 10 months before he's actually even charged.
Yeah.
And that's what I think. There's a little bit of I think a few people are racing a little bit questionable whether or not we should be making a habit of doing those things.
So we'll take the 10 months off his 25 years.
Yeah, of his 15 years. But what could happen, ladies, the judge might, my understanding from what I can gather is that even though his appeal might be unsuccessful, he can still have his sentence reduced for 15 years. So that could be, who knows.
Interesting. Any more news on the Sam Kavanagh front?
Look, not really. I think there'll be bubbling away. There'll be a couple of bits of news in the next 48 hours on tipping.
Yep.
That will come out. But at this stage, there's nothing to report on the record.
All right, excellent. Another thing you wanted to bring up was the Graham Rogerson.
Oh, Rogie? Yeah.
Yes.
What about that? So he's went to court yesterday, that being Monday.
Yep.
Remember a horse called Arlington?
Name rings a bell.
So it was a half brother, I think, to Savabeel.
Yes.
And anyway, look, this is what has been alleged, and we're going to make that clear because, as always, we don't really know what's going on until the case is over. But he bought the horse and put a few people into it. Some fishermen on the south coast of New South Wales owned 25%.
Yep.
Didn't realise that these horses had gone to stud until he saw an advert on the TV advertising Arlington or something like that, or in a paper or something. he's rung up old mate and said, "What's going on?" And look, Rod, I think you'll find Roger's reasoning is that the bloke hadn't paid training fees for a long time. That's what he's saying anyway. That's what he's alleging. The reason why I think it's sort of semi-important for us is just because the ownership laws might change a bit.
Yeah, definitely.
Most those trainers buy stuff, and I think 90% of the time it's what's called a partnership.
Yeah.
The legal term.
Yeah.
And that's the rules surrounding a partnership are such that these types of situations can unfold. And I suspect when this is all done that they might look at tightening up those laws a bit.
Yeah, definitely. Interesting.
What else?
The weight spread crusade.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to lead a little crusade here. I think the weights. I think half the problem in Sydney racing. I don't know if this is going to work. There's probably something horribly flawed with what I'm about to say.
Yeah.
I'm happy to cop it on social media if people have got a reason for it. But I think that in Sydney, most races we've got a 54 bottom weight and a 60 top weight. Yes. So you've got a 6 kilo spread. So you're only getting 12 ratings points. And because of that, it's hard to get enough horses. There's not that many horses in that.
I was having the same discussion with David Van Dyke yesterday at the trials.
Well, yeah. So why not make it 61 and 53? I think there's a lot of riders that can still ride at 53. Whether or not they'll go back, I don't know. But certainly increasing the top weight to 61 is a no-brainer. And if you do that, if you go to 61 and 53, you've got an 8 kilo spread. All of a sudden, you've got 16 rating points as your big scoop. Yeah. Instead of 12. So you've just increased the scoop of horses that can run in any given race at their true weight by 33%.
It'd be a big help considering we had a big 4-horse field in the first on Rose Hill.
Well, they're just ridiculous. And look, the other one was, and the guys are floating this out as well, is that maybe we should be paying prize money based on turnover for each race.
Yeah.
So it's a real performance thing, so it becomes a test, if this race attracts X amount of turnover tax, then that's what we pump back in.
Yeah, it's interesting. It definitely make for more competitive racing, especially in that rating scale.
Yeah. It'd be interesting as a journalist because everyone would want their race written up, wouldn't they?
They would. Here's your man. Oh, that's the news. Thank you again.
Alright, that was Nick with some racing news, and he always brings some interesting stories to the table, young Nick.
Yes, and I think he's got a couple of exciting ones coming in the next 24, 48 hours, which will be quite interesting to follow up on next week.
Okay, we'll wait for those. But before we throw over to Brenton, another little chat about the tournament on Saturday, the top better running. Look, it's all about tactics, and Glenn suggested he'll be rolling his 3 wins in a row up, and that'll put him ahead. How have you played the tournaments in the past?
I always it's quite similar to the way I punt. I kind of try and find something at a bit of odds, bit of value that I think a lot of other people seem to not find, because wouldn't it be nice, those sort of horses, have a crack at them, whether it be each way, or try and label a race that I think could throw up a big price winner. And I usually try and use the majority of the bank on that and then see how we go from there. Yeah,
and for those that saw the Stradbroke meeting, which was the last big feature the top leader did, Glenn ran second, and we had a video on him watching the last race. He fell about $11,000 short. He's challenged you guys to take him on again, so have a crack this week. I think we're paying down to about 4 or 5 positions, and $10,000 guarantee in the pool, so it should be a great day.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's good to see it's building and start to run a few more of those tournaments, I think. So.
Yeah, they'll keep going. Look, Aaron and I caught up with Brenton Avdulla, one of Sydney's leading riders. He's probably he's in just as good as form as any of them, and we caught up with him today, so we're going to throw to our interview now.
Yeah, good little interview.
Alright, our feature interviews continue here at the Punter Show, and last week we had Bjorn Baker, and this week we welcome one of Sydney's leading riders, Brenton Avdulla. Welcome, mate.
Matty, how are you? Aaron?
How are you, Brenton?
Good.
So, it's obviously, we're going to ask Brenton some sort of questions from a punter's point of view, and some of the stuff maybe that some of the people haven't heard before. So, how are you? All good?
Yeah, no, everything's going well. I suppose it's a nice sunny day today. It's a bit better than sort of the rainy days we've had, so hopefully these tracks can improve soon.
Yeah, just for the punters at home, how How wet is Sydney at the moment compared to what you've been through for the last 5-6 years? Sort of thing?
Yeah, it's just very wet. This time of year is always hard.
Yeah.
And I suppose all the tracks, when it doesn't rain, the tracks aren't wet. They're just tired now. They're just typical winter tracks where it's they're loose underfoot and it's certain. It doesn't suit a lot of horses.
Yeah.
You find wet trackers don't even handle these sorts of tracks sometimes, and I suppose for the punters and for you guys, it makes the form hard. But I suppose the biggest base is fitness. I found you're on the fit horses on these sorts of testing tracks. Makes your job a lot easier.
And that's something your manager is sort of looking for those fit horses now, or how does it work for you?
Yeah, well, I suppose every time of year is sort of different. So in summer you look for those horses, obviously with firm track records and that sort of stuff. And then this time of year, in the middle of winter, you want wet trackers or horses that are, well into their preparation. They can sustain runs, and you're not afraid to sort of ride those horses on the back up because you think they'll benefit from it on these testing sort of services. And like I said, my manager does a good job of it.
When do you go from riding those horses, so probably you could say less talented, less ability, to making that transition that I want to start riding those better horses, getting ready for the carnival?
Well, I suppose the transition's probably now. I suppose we had a set of Roseville trials this morning, and you've seen horses like Kermadec and those sorts of things trial this morning. So a lot of the stables will be setting out their big guns now, and again, it's not ideal with the way these tracks are, but hopefully over the next 6 weeks these tracks can improve and we can get these good horses racing on better surfaces.
And we're here at a place that's dear to your heart, the Cubby House in Randwick. Do you want to just explain to the viewers how you fit in, what the Cubby House is and how you fit into it?
Well, it's something that one of my best mates has he had sort of a few other night spots a few years ago, and racing's pretty full on for me. I eat, sleep, live racing, and it's hard to get out of, but I found that I asked him to if I get into this establishment, and I own a quarter of it, and it's just something for me to get out of racing. If I have a bad day at the races, I can come here and chill with the boys and watch a footy on a Friday night or a Monday night. It's somewhere to celebrate after you ride a winner. And also, look, I live by myself at home. 24, I'm single. I'm not much of a cook, and when I do get the chance to eat, diet's very important for me. So we're very lucky and very fortunate. We've got a great chef here, so I can bring whatever I want from, whether I go to the butchers or a bit of fish and that, and bring it here, and he makes me a 5-star meal, and goes down a treat. I reckon it helps a lot with my weight.
Oh, beautiful. And it's in the spot, isn't it, Randwick? If anyone wants to come along.
69 Peruse Road, Randwick, the spot. So,
there we go.
I'm sure when the carnival comes up soon, we're going to be doing a few little things. If I happen to fluke a Group 1 ride or Group 1 winner there, look, it might be a shout on Cubby House, a shout. So, we'll see what we can do later on in the year.
We'll keep the punters aware of that.
Well, just as you said, you're still young. You started off down in Melbourne. You made that transition to Sydney. How hard was that for you?
It was probably hard more just when I left Melbourne, I was getting a lot of rides, and I was probably the next leading apprentice in Melbourne, and Sydney was only meant to be a 6-week goal because it was heading into spring carnival time in Melbourne. So I think I finished second to Nick Hall on the Melbourne Premiership, and I rode 90 winners for the season, and everything was starting to flow well. And the new season came. I got a couple of suspensions early, and then next thing the carnival happened. So Gay asked me to come up for 6 weeks, and that was all it was meant to be. And 6 weeks turned into 3 months, and 3 months turned into a year, and a year's turned into 6 years now. So it made it very difficult early. I think I hated Sydney for the first 12 months, and I kept telling Dad I was going back to Melbourne. But opportunities probably kept me there. I was riding, I was there for 6 weeks with Gay, a couple of months, and then Anthony Cummings offered me a stable role there. Not just an apprentice, he said, look, you can ride the bulk of my riding. So as a kid who was claiming 2 kilos at the time, and I was basically riding the stakes races and getting the choice of what I wanted, it made it hard to give up. And I suppose after that I was riding for Graham Berg, and when I found Secret Admirer, I didn't want to go home.
She was the one that
she probably sealed the deal. If she didn't come, I would be back in Melbourne. But she came, she opened up opportunities for me. Horses like I Lovely City. I ended up riding 3 Group 1 winners by the time I was 20, and haven't really looked back since. The opportunities have kept flowing, and I enjoy my lifestyle here more than Melbourne. Like I said, for the first 12 months I found it really difficult. Obviously very homesick, 18, very homesick. Even though I've lived away from home since I was 15. But I suppose it's just the better class horses. And then when I started to enjoy the lifestyle of Sydney racing, you know, in Melbourne's 7 days a week, Sydney I was riding 3 or 4 maximum. So
Yeah.
that's just what appealed to me. And
So you say you're quite a lazy worker, is that right?
I wouldn't say I'm lazy. I ride work sort of 4 and 5 mornings a week still. But just everything, you know, your Melbourne, you've got your Monday Packings, your Tuesday Kilmore. I find it's non-stop. Out of the 14 days, out of the fortnight in Melbourne, I was riding 12 days and riding work every morning.
Wow.
And you go to places like Bendigo, Sale, that are 2.5, 3 hours out of Melbourne. And in Sydney, the furthest I go is sort of Wyong usually, if you have Thursday individual. Your Hawkesbury's an hour away, you know, Wyong's an hour and a half, Gosford's an hour and a quarter, Kembla's an hour and a quarter. The furthest I sort of do is a Goulburn or Newcastle, which is only twice a year. So lifestyle wise, I'm 5 to 10 minutes from the beach, 5 minutes from the city. Got a good base around me, and I'm very happy being here.
Yeah, it's good. The reason I pointed that out was how hard is it to keep that hunger, like you prepare for the Saturday races? What's the difference between your preparation and your thought process in going to Goulburn to riding the maiden to when you're coming here on a Saturday and then going to Saturday in the Carnival?
It's always pretty full on. So, you know, I speak to my manager every day, and we're always planning sort of, my rides are getting planned sort of 10 days out.
Yep.
So even if it's, you know, it's Monday, just say it's Monday in Sydney, I'm looking forward to the sort of the Wednesday, Thursday, the week in advance for rides. So I never, look, we sort of talk about it, and then I'll worry about the following rides because they're coming up. So, you know, today it's Tuesday, we'll be worrying about my rides tomorrow. And then when I get over the tomorrow's rides, I'll be going on to Thursday, and Thursday I'll be going on Saturday. So I try not to look too far in advance.
Yep.
We plan it, and that's all we do, and then I sort of do my form, and that sort of I plan on from there. But I look at every meeting the same. Obviously, there's when carnival time's around, it's a different sort of thing. You probably get, I wouldn't say you get hard about it more, but I suppose it's you enjoy it more than what you usually do, riding in big crowds, and it's our elite level, so you enjoy that more. But sort of your Wednesdays and your Thursdays are sort of pretty, you know, you don't think you stress about it too much. It's just, yeah, I try and do what I'm best at, and then Saturdays are probably a little bit better. But yeah, that's the pinnacle is Group 1 racing and the carnival, and that's what I thrive on.
One thing you've probably got on your Wednesdays, especially like your Thursdays at Wyong, I find you're one person that seems to dominate there, because out of the leading 4 or 5, it's you and usually one other that's there. Do you notice you got that edge?
Probably at the moment, the last probably 6 months has been that. Work manager and myself have been working hard to sort of, it's hard if you're not riding for those top 5 leading trainers in town to get the ball rolling and get the opportunities. So we sort of went back to basics and said, look, I'll work hard, I'll get the opportunities from, you know, your 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 trainers, and we'll base ourselves on those provincial meetings and get the winners up. And I found that I was starting to get good opportunities at those meetings, riding 2 or 3 winners, and then next thing people go, oh gee, you're riding well, and then it's just a flow-on effect. I suppose it's hard to get good rides when you're not getting, you know, when you're not winning. And so even if you're riding a winner at Goulburn or a winner at Hawkesbury or a winner at Kembla or Warwick Farm, I think other trainers and owners take notice, and then next thing they're happy to give you an opportunity on a Saturday in town, and you get the job done. And, you know, that's how it works. And like I said, all I ask for is an opportunity.
Yep.
And I'm sure if I get the right opportunity, I'll win on it.
Beautiful.
You touched on sort of the form and stuff like that. Tell the people at home how your team work with getting ready for a day of the races and getting the form done and maps and all that sort of stuff.
Well, pretty much the key word to use there was a team. Myself as a jockey, I don't look at it, it's just me, myself and I. You've got to have a base around you, and probably the number one base is my manager. At the same time, I've got, you know, a manager organises everything. If I need a flight to Melbourne, he'll book it. So he's great like that. He's like having my own PR sort of person, by the way, and then he organises everything, dealing with owners and trainers. So he's great. I've got my dad's great. He's like sort of support wise. He's there, always there for me if I've had a bad day. And then I've got someone else that I do my own form every morning or the night before. Always do my own form, and I've got a fair idea what I want to do before I get to the races. And I do speak to someone every time I ride, and they give me their input. So there's things I don't look at. So I don't really study other horses as much as probably what a couple other people do. I'm more worried about my horse and how I feel it's best ridden.
Exactly.
And then sort of, when you're in a 2-year-old race against a lot of untried horses, this is where my main man sort of comes into play, and he helps me, gives me guides on horses he thinks can improve or horses to follow. And I find him very thorough in what he does. And at the same time, sort of I go out and ride my horses, and then I could watch my replays after the ride and think, oh, yeah, I give it every chance or whatever, I'd give it a bad ride, and sort of respect him on the way home, and he said, well, you slaughtered it, or you did it right, and just different things. And I find it's very beneficial for me and something we can work on. And I suppose different times of the year you've got to ride these tracks differently. I find at the moment cutting the turns and the biggest part of these wet tracks when things are going too wide, and if you draw one and the trainer says get to the outside, well, you might as well throw that plan out the window, because it very rarely happens. So I've learned to sort of through speaking to him, he's educated me on sort of different sort of ground plays for certain tracks, and I find it's working. And like I said, the last 6 months of my riding's probably been the best I've had.
And he is a friend of the show, but he remains unnamed.
He's a friend of the show.
Brenton wants to keep it up his sleeve. He's a secret edge.
I don't want the boys to steal him. And next thing, I feel it's an advantage for myself. And like I said, my riding's gone to a new level, and I feel it's not only just my manager and the support behind me, and that I think he's given me a great edge on looking at myself. I sort of use him as a coach. If I'm feeling down and out, he can sort of pump me up and get me psyched, and I'll be going to races confident. I never used to go to races confident every day I'd ride a winner. I'd sometimes look at my book and go, oh well, it's 20 to 1, it's 15 to 1, 10 to 1. And, you probably go out there riding them like that. Well, now I ride everything the same. I expect to try and win on everything, and he gives me an edge where something could be big odds, and he's always got. He might have said, don't worry, you put it in the right spot, it'll win, and things happen like that. So
do you think over the last couple of years you've changed? Because I remember when you were a younger apprentice, you used to ride quite similar to Nash, and you kind of had that same profile. You used to like to go forward on horses, where now you're a more relaxed rider. I find, like you said, you're more patient, you don't just try and hustle and bustle.
I suppose it's just a bit of maturity. I was never a pretty rider from day dot. I tried the pretty style in Melbourne, and it never worked for me. So I thought I might as well work at what I'm good at, and I find I've always been strong enough on it from a young age, and I suppose it's an edge. I think with padded whips and all these things these days, any edge you can get is a bonus. So I wear a set of hooks on a lot of horses. I feel it's an advantage for me. I know how to use them, and sort of with those old times, I won on a horse on Saturday, rode across, and I find I get a lot of success on horses that other people can't win on, or non-winners, and I find it's doing little different things like that, with a set of hooks, or just hands and heels, or strong hands and heels riding. Without the stick, and that's what I've sort of become used for, because you never know, in 2 years' time we could be racing with no whips, and I've already sort of adapted to the style. So like I said, you could say I've probably changed a little bit, but I've probably just tried to sort of neaten it up a little bit and get horses to run for me more without sort of belting.
Well, a lot of horses seem to not like the whip, especially younger horses, and if you can just get them to travel, and
that's it. And I'm sort of based with Gerald Ryan, who's got a lot of young horses and a lot of 2-year-olds, so sort of a lot of whip use isn't great for them, and you just got to keep them balanced and keep them handy. And I find on wet tracks, you keep them balanced, so you're halfway home.
We just had a chat off air about barrier trial. You're at a set today at Rose Hill. There was Randwick on yesterday. What sort of advice can you give punters watching barrier trials, that things that may be overrated and underrated?
Well, I suppose our three trial tracks, 4 in a way. So you've got your 2 tracks at Warwick Farm. You've got the synthetic and the grass.
Yeah, the synthetics are amazing.
Synthetic, I take no interest at all in synthetic trials.
The audience is the same.
In a way, I think they're a great fitness edge for horses, and that's all they are. A classic example for me was I trialled a horse there, having its first trial last year, called Fireworks. She got back. I think I got beat 10 lengths, and I come back in telling Gerald and the owners, this thing trialled well, and they were looking at me like I'm an idiot. And I was trying to explain to them the way the trials are. They're just literally momentum tracks, that if you get back and you quicken, you can still run last. And then we took her to a turf trial, and she won by 6. And she came out and won a Group 3. So I find the synthetic trials are the worst of them all. You can make bad horses look good. You can make good horses look bad. I find you can put a bad horse on speed there, they'll keep running because they're only going to go 700 on an artificial surface. The turf trials there, the 800s, I think they're okay. As long as the track's not too bad. Randwick 740s, I think, are similar to the sort of synthetic trials at Warwick Farm, but not as bad. I find you can get those early, because it's only 740 and around a little bend, you get those horses that jump and go for 50 metres around that bend. Next thing they're 4 or 5 lengths in front.
Yeah.
And if you're making ground in those trials, I think you've got a pretty nice horse.
Okay.
I think the 1,000 and 1,200s are probably decent enough trials. I suppose Gay uses them a lot, and they run like races, so they're a good sort of fitness base. And then you've got your Rosehill 900s and that. And for me as a jockey, I get my best guide out of the 900s at Rosehill. Nice even speed without being brutal, without being too slow. You get Chris Waller horses, you got Gerald's horses, good quality trainers, and you still get your Randwick trainers take horses there for a good 900 or 1,000 metre trial. And I think the surface is probably the best of the tracks at the moment. So I think at the moment, Rosehill's probably the best guide for horses at trials. And I've had a lot of luck with them.
Okay. Well, while we're talking about that, let's go to race riding and the tracks at the moment. Like your 3 key ones. How do you attack Rosehill, Randwick, and does it change with rail positions? What are little important things? Without giving away everything.
At the moment, these tracks are sort of they're terrible at the moment. Canterbury's our best surface. There's no doubt. I find Canterbury's our best wet track service in town, and Gosford's our best wet track service at the provincials. But when the rail's out there, it's always hard to make ground. But Canterbury, I think, is racing the best. So you don't really have to. The surface is always pretty good. Randwick and Rosehill, they deteriorate pretty quickly. Rain on day, they deteriorate, and like I said, rail positions, obviously at Randwick and the rail, it's true, it's very hard to sort of stay within 3 or 4 of the fence. And you can tell by just having a quick walk of the track, it's just a lot softer, it cambers in. So obviously the rain's going to, when it rains, it's going to just sit obviously on the inside of the track for longer, and I think you've definitely got to get out a little bit. And Warwick Farm, I think, is quite similar. Warwick Farm, when the fence is true, rail true, it's always an advantage to sort of get off. And I think Warwick Farm's more of a momentum track than sort of Randwick and Rosehill. Warwick Farm, you can sort of be 3 wide on the run line and sort of make ground, so I find wide barriers aren't a disadvantage. When you sort of Rosehills, I think when you get to that 1500 start, everything works out pretty well because you've got 600 metre running. But Rosehill, that track, it chops out to the 700, and you got to keep your horses sort of balanced through there. And then again, rail true, you probably want to get a couple off. So a lot of people say we overdo it in Sydney, and I suppose a lot of riders probably do.
Take note.
I don't name names, but I find a lot of riders probably do overthink. People call us probably sheep in a way, but like I said, I've had sort of, I suppose on Saturday, Rugged Cross, another example. Barrier 1 was up, everything went wide. I was able to cut the turn and sort of then coming out to the middle. So the tracks at the moment, they're deteriorating. They're typical winter tracks. But hopefully in the next 6 weeks we can sort of work that stuff out, and we can be racing on good surfaces.
Well, one of the questions I had was how much pressure, how much direction do some trainers do they give you in connections about what they want done with your horse? And when that sort of conflicts with something, your team have worked out, like you've got a wide barrier, I want to go forward, but then you speak to the bloke or the owner before the race and he goes, I'll just go out the back. How much can you push back?
It's tricky. Depends who I'm riding for. I ride for, my number 1 stable is Gerald Ryan, so Gerald never gives me instructions. Simple as that. He knows I do my form. He knows I know all his horses back to front. So with Gerald, he actually, when I go out in the middle, he'll go to me, what do you want to do? And I'll put forward the suggestion. And if it's a change of tactics, we obviously let know half hour before. But then you got certain other trainers, Chris Waller. I don't get a lot of rides, but when I do, they're always nice enough, and he's always got his game plan already, and he might put forward to me what he wants to do, but then Chris is always reasonable. I find a lot of trainers, they're happy to, they know I do my form, and they're happy to sort of reason with me, and at the end, sometimes they've got a bigger prep scene for them. So if I've drawn 14 to 14, second up, they don't want, and I think there's no speed, they don't want me busting it to go forward and next thing be out of a prep. So look, there's little things like that, but most of the time trainers are pretty reasonable, and the final decision is always by them and their owners. So not once have I gone against trainers or an owner's opinion, even though I think it could be the wrong thing to do. I'll still ride to how they want it, but then again, I suppose when those barriers leave and the pace I'm back on one and the pace slackens mid-race, I won't be afraid to take off mid-race and go. So look, I always find as soon as you leave the barriers, plan A can sometimes go straight out the window. So
Yeah, exactly.
you might have your ideas, but I've got the confidence in my riding now, and I think I know what speed we're going in races, that I can make my own decisions. And I think your leading trainers and other trainers are confident in my ability to put me on and work that out.
What with just on speed and gauging speed? How long does it take you to learn that?
I'm still learning. I suppose it's like anything. Look, obviously, when you're an apprentice going through the ranks, you just want to lead on everything, and then you go as slow as you can. When I find now, you just certain horses have certain cruising speeds, and there's certain, like, I suppose another one was the horse of Bjorn Baker's I'm riding tomorrow.
Mr. Steele.
Mr. Steele. So
Stole the race at
I hadn't ride on him since I rode him at Warwick Farm, and straight away doing his replays, I thought, well, this horse doesn't go any quicker off the bridle, so there's no point for me to ride him and just go as slow as I can. So certain horses appreciate being ridden, held up, and being at a slow speed. But I thought a horse like him, he's better off rolling in a good tempo and getting everything chasing. So the first thing, it takes a while to learn speed, and like I said, I'm still sort of every now and then, we're not perfect, I still get one wrong, or if a horse over races during the run, I might, they must have gone slow, but they've actually gone a good go. It's just my horse over raced very badly. So you still get your little tricks and that, but most of the time I think I've got it pretty spot on, and like I said, it's still learning all about it.
What about some of your goals for next season, and so I suppose some of the horses that you've been working with that you're a bit excited about?
Goals, well, I suppose the goal this season was to finish top 5 in...
Yeah, let's talk about this season. We're almost at the end of it.
I suppose this season was to finish, number 5. I wanted to finish number 5 on the premiership.
Yep.
I wanted to ride 100 winners for the season. And I wanted to finish in the top 10 in New South Wales. So at the moment, I'm sitting number 3 in New South Wales. I'm number 5 in town, and I've ridden 110 winners. So I've basically got the season hopefully wrapped up. Hopefully I can just ride a couple more winners over the next week or two and seal it. And and then I suppose I'll sit down with my manager next week or the week after, and we'll work out a goal for next season. At the moment, I'm always a person who wants to improve. This season I wasn't fortunate enough to get a Group 1, albeit I didn't really chase the carnivals. I was more set myself just trying to be a consistent jockey, and everything's worked out like that. So hopefully this season I can find a few fast horses and be challenging for a few, maybe not sure if I can get to a premiership spot yet. I haven't probably got the support to do it. But if you can get those leading trainers, your Chris Wallers and those support, well, maybe I can. But more than anything, it'll just be sort of just staying consistent and hopefully getting a Group 1 or 2.
How do you get from, because right now you're currently, like you said, you're 5th and you're that little bracket just off the top 3. How do you break into that top 3? How do you get those rides? Is there a way of doing it?
Opportunities.
There's opportunities. That next horse.
I suppose that's what I've based on. I've never had doubts in my ability as a rider. I suppose the worst thing I've probably done is I've been inconsistent. You have a bad day at the office, and the next time you get the shits and you ride bad for the next time. Where I'm at the moment now, I've got the team behind me. I'm always feeling confident, feeling great on them, and if I don't ride a winner, it's not the end of the world. Tomorrow I go home, I do my form for the next day, and I go out and I ride a winner. So, like I said, consistency's been the big key for me this season, and I think that's why my support base has got a lot bigger. Like I said, I'm starting to get a few more rides for Chris Waller. I don't ride for Godolphin. I don't ride for Snowden. I don't ride for Joe Pride. Don't ride for Gay.
Is it something you want to do?
It's something I want to do, and like I said, I'm riding work for Snowden. I ride a bit of work for Gay. I do Wallace trials every now and then, so it's just something that it's hard to break into, but I just keep turning up, trying to do my best, and hopefully something happens. And I suppose the only way to do it, if I keep riding winners, hopefully they'll just say, well, I'm riding winners, and they'll give me an opportunity, and that's what it is. Racing's all about opportunities, and hopefully I get one of those opportunities soon, and I can do the job. Just
for the carnival, we've got something for the viewers. One horse, one little uncovered gem from Brenton Avdulla.
At the moment, it's probably at Gerald. Like my main base is sort of Gerald Ryan, and we got a lot of 2-year-old and 3-year-old horses, and I think we might have 80 in work, and we wouldn't even have any 10 horses that are above 4. So it makes it hard to find these carnival horses, and I suppose we're late in the season now, so I haven't been on many of the babies, so I can't give you a guide there. And so the 2-year-olds that are now going 3, well, we've lost a couple of them. Because I think Hong Kong started to buy a few of them, so we've had a few nice ones that have gone. But look, there's a filly I won on Sunday called Shacked Up, who I think can measure up to sort of stakes grade. Apart from that, we'll be working it all out over the next sort of 6 weeks, 2 months, and we'll be going up for the carnival with a few young horses, hopefully.
Yeah.
And just before we go, the nickname that we call you on the show is The Gun, and that sort of stuck through. Did you aware of how that came about?
Oh,
do you run with it or not?
I don't think... if everyone knows Glenn Pollitt, they'll hear him before they see him. So that's why you can hear him walking around the mountain yard. He gives it to most of them, but I think I'm one of his favourites, so I always get the gun. So I think that's where it half come from, and I think even a lot of the boys in the room now have latched onto it. So I'm happy to run with it. It's better than what a few of the others are called. So it's much better.
No, Brenton, thanks a lot for having a chat to us and giving us some of the insights into the world of a jockey.
Thank you.
Much appreciated. Hopefully, punters can just look at things a little bit differently, and hopefully get a bit more out of these trials and stuff like that. And we can work out and hopefully get a few more winners.
And celebrate at the Cubby.
Celebrate at the Cubby, yeah. That'll be right.
All right, thanks guys. Thank
you.
All right, that was The Gun, Brenton Avdulla. He gave us some great insights, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. No, it'll be interesting to see how, when we interview a few of the other leading jockeys, just to see
how they differ.
Yeah, how they do differ, and just to see how much of an element other people are involved. Like Brenton said, he's got a team behind him. It'd be interesting to see the James McDonalds, the Hugh Bowmans, the Shins, just how many different people they do use and how important it is to them.
And we're certainly going to try and chat to those guys very soon. Look, just before we move on to the next thing, a quick recap with One to Follow last week, and it was a pretty good day actually across the board last week. And I suppose the Melbourne Phantom set, which sort of I had a bit to do with, had a great weekend, which was good.
There's a new bloke, a new face to the Phantom.
A new Phantom in town.
Yes.
He saw them pretty well, which is good. Probably the highlight of all was the Brisbane Bandit. He had a massive day. Got the quaddie, which paid about 8,000. He had 4 or 5 winners. He had the last winner, which is at $10. Just a great day.
Big day up in Brizzy.
Yeah, and you were very close to having a massive collect on Wouldn't It Be Nice? 4 units at about, was it 20 to 1 or 30 to 1?
Yeah, I'd rather not speak about taking 40s, 30s, 20s.
It looked home, didn't it?
Yeah, it looked home for your money, but
before old mate Brenton Avdulla knocked you off.
That's it. But those things happen, and when you're backing horses at that end of the market with less favourable jockeys at times, those things do happen. So keep finding them, and I think you do end up in front.
Keep finding them. Look, the guys are putting in lots of hard work to deliver those tips. So onetofollow.com.au, and there's a whole host of those there.
Yeah.
Next up, we're going to throw down to you somewhere else, and we're going to do a bit of the mounting yard summary from last Saturday at Rose Hill.
Yeah, I think we did the recap of the trials as well.
Okay, welcome back. We're going to do our trial review now with Aaron Macy from One to Follow. Aaron, you've been out to Randwick and then Rose Hill.
Yeah, Randwick yesterday. It is bloody freezing sitting in the old members stand, I must say, but
do you manage to sneak a coffee and a muffin off the Waterhouse camp?
You have to thank the Waterhouse camp. Thank you, Gay, once again for providing those muffins that keep the stomach lined, and the coffee and tea.
What have you got for us from the trials?
Just on the coffee and tea, I pressed the wrong button and put coffee in with my tea bag. So if anyone out there, coffee and tea together, not great. There's the first tip.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. A couple of horses, key horses mainly. Pornichet, he trialled in Heat 2.
Okay, yeah. How's he looking?
He's looking good. He looks a more switched on, more relaxed horse.
Yeah, that's good.
I think that's the number one thing for him. As Gay always likes to say with those horses, I think the penny dropped with him just at the end of last prep.
Yeah.
He only went out for that kind of short spell, but I think it's good because he is quite a gross horse, and he is a horse that takes a while to get fit. He didn't get sent out to do too much, just found the line under a little bit of riding. It was good. I'm really happy with that performance.
Okay.
I'm assuming he'll have another trial, possibly 2, and then we'll see him at the races, not too far away.
Fairly short break. I'm assuming he'll be ready to go real quick. Even though there's a Cox Space plan.
Yeah, well, that's what she's kind of looking at. I'm assuming she's not putting much work into him at the moment.
Okay. Keep him ticking over.
Just keep him ticking over. And one thing with him, as we saw, as much as he trialled the norm, was first up early, like I did the money on him early. He wasn't ready. He did take a while to get fit, and I think it took him a while to settle. And I think she's taking that plan of he does thrive with racing. He doesn't seem to taper away. So it'd be interesting to see how she goes with him.
Okay.
Another horse out of that sort of quality, It's Somewhat.
Mm-hmm.
We saw him win on debut at Warwick Farm. He's returned. He had a nice quiet trial in Heat 3. Looked to have plenty of improvement. Wouldn't be surprised to see him have another one, if not 2 trials. But definitely looks to be one of those horses that will be Group 1 quality.
Okay, big call. Beautiful.
Another horse I've been following for a little while, should have won on debut and Ty dropped the whip, but those things happen in racing.
Mm-hmm.
And then pulled up with Harder With Me at last start when favourite beaten to Japona's Me. He's returned to the trials, Water Diviner. Worked up the middle section of the trials. One thing when you're analysing Randwick trials, especially when they're wet, I find any horse that makes ground on the inside, you've got to give an extra half a tick to, because it's almost like a conveyor belt out wide. The ground's just so different. And he worked up the middle of the track inside horses. He just looks to be thriving.
Inside Haptic, who I thought was going to go straight past him, but not at all.
Yeah, he did it under minimal riding. He gives the impression that he will be a better late 3-year-old. Because they are almost 3 now. I think he does give the impression he'll be better in time, and I do think Sarge will eventually put the blinkers on him.
Yeah.
But I think he has a good opinion of the horse, and he's looking at the bigger races, and I think he's going to save the blinkers for them. But as long as nothing else goes wrong with him, I'll be very surprised not to see him win a maiden very soon.
Yeah, and get on next start then.
And another horse out of the Sarge camp in Heat 12, Dauphin de France, I believe is the name. Rather impressive trial, yet to be raced. Won the trial exceedingly well, and I'd be very surprised not to see it not winning a maiden very, very soon.
Okay, and till today, Tuesday, you're off to Rose Hill.
Yeah, well, went out to Rose Hill. A few of the horses and a few of the leading horses that were in those Randwick trials got scratched to run today at Rose Hill, so we had a lot more of the group quality horses there. We saw the return of Kermadec. He just kind of sat out the back, followed the pack. I reckon if they just half released the handbrake, he could have exploded past them. Yeah. He really looks to have returned back a stronger horse again.
That's exciting. That's exciting for him to take another step, even though he's already got a Group 1.
Yeah, well, he's got that Doncaster, but I think that transition period from them going from being where they are weighted well against those older horses, to make that transition is quite a tough thing. But I think we've seen a lot of our genuine group horses, like all those Fortellers and those horses, seem to be tapering away now and getting close to retirement. He could definitely be the one that takes the step. He looks to have returned in great order, and I think he's improved once again. Yep. Just another horse to follow. He's nowhere near that standard just yet, but it wouldn't surprise me. Maybe not during the spring, but during the autumn. I think there is a nice racing in this prep, but I think for the autumn he really could be also following Quartzer King from the Snowden camp. I think he's won 2 races so far. He's kind of a big dopey bloke, still has no idea what he's doing, and he's just doing it all on raw ability. I think Peter Snowden's said when he won his maiden, he's always been a horse that he's had a good opinion of, and I think he'll be a horse to follow over time as well. Okay. Another horse is one that you and I found from the trials last prep, and we backed him in the early markets, and he was scratched and sent out to do it. Wallace thoughts on a wet track. He failed in his first trial at Warwick Farm last week, Metallic Crown. Yep. I couldn't explain it. Like I watched it, and I expected him to go well. And just when you thought he would let down, he'd explode, and he just floundered in the wet at Warwick Farm. So they hunted him to the front and let him find his feet. And I spoke to Blake Shin after the trial and got his thoughts as well, because I thought it was a better trial. He found one thing that I did like. He kept wanting. He didn't want horses to go past him. Okay. But I do think he'll be a better horse ridden cold. Blake Shin seemed to have the same opinion. He said the stable's got a good opinion of him, and just the wet track's probably the big query with him. Okay. I think he'll be a better horse ridden cold on a dry track. So perhaps an opportunity to
play against him early in his prep if the market's very firm on
Well,
him?
it just depends where the market has him. A lot of the time, those trial winners and Harley Sprint horses seem to start quite short. So yeah, it could be but I do think he's a horse that could have very good potential.
Okay.
Another horse that's returned ran second in the size were Geese. He was a horse, showed good potential early. He was very leggy, very immature as we saw him last time in. I think he has come back a lot stronger. Everyone's going to see his trial. Stevie Wonder was amazed at how well he trialled today. I think you can't miss it. He exploded under half a hold. I think he'll be one very serious player.
Right, so he'll take the next step from that mid tier to the top tier, perhaps. You're thinking?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's tricky. It's tricky to always gauge who was top tier and who wasn't in the 2-year-olds. But he's a horse that certainly looks to have filled out. He's starting to grow into his body. He'll still be probably better in 12 months, but he's come back in very good order.
Okay, Regis.
And one in Heat 8, another one of Waller's called Devil Hawk. I believe it's either the full or half brother to Hawkesbury.
Yeah, that's right, I remember him. Yeah.
He was a tragedy beaten at big odds on debut. Some could argue just couldn't get the run. He'll be a horse that will be better like a mile plus. Just did nothing today, quite trialled. James McDonald rode him. I think he's a nice horse, he's a lovely action, and I think he'll just be one that gets better with age and maturity.
Okay, beautiful. Well, thanks for a detailed wrap of the trials. We're going to have a quick chat about the mounting yard at Rose Hill on Saturday. We're going to start off in race 2.
Yes, with the short price favourite, the horse. Many would say she should have won the last 2 starts.
Yep.
Interesting rider take is going too far back, a bit unlucky. Allegria. Saturday was the first time she looked super tight.
Okay.
Which was she looked really round up, really screwed down. And my only fear moving forward is that, well, my thought would be that they'll send her out for a spell now.
Yep.
Or some sort of a light let up. Or they'll step her up to 2,000 metres.
Okay.
Because she's starting to give that impression of just looking at her that she's starting to either lighten off a little bit, need a spell, or she's looking for a lot further.
Okay.
So it'll be interesting to see. Once again, I think she's a horse that's better ridden with a sit with pace on. But I'd just be caution if she does go up short and she does go to another race, because she really does look like she's either perfect now and could be gone next start.
Okay. Race 3.
Race 3, that was the 2-year-old race, which is quite interesting. A few people circled out saying Voliere. I think were you one that was quite interested in Voliere?
I was interested to see how he looked in the yard.
Yeah, and he was one big furry fat boy. He
only
had the 2 jump outs. He was as fat as a pig. So his run from coming back in the field through the heavy was quite exceptional for what he did. He will take a lot of improvement for the run. Only slight fear with that is sometimes when they have, I don't think he had a hard run, but even sprinting late on those can take a little bit out of him and can have a flat run second up, but he's definitely got improvement and will improve further into the prep. I think the winner, Japona's mate, he just seems to be thriving ever since being gelded. He looks to be going well, and I think he's got he's definitely got another win in store. Just needs to find the right race. And the short price favourite, King's Troop, he'll improve from the run, but he's another one that I think there is some sort of ability there, but right now he's kind of built, he's quite small. He's not ever going to be a very big horse, but he's got a lot of growing to do in himself. He's still only little. I wouldn't want to be taking too many short odds here because I do think he's 6 months away.
Okay. The next race, the 4th.
Yes, there's a horse, for me, I labelled it the run of the day in Amazon.
Okay.
She'd had the 2 runs leading into the race. She was that looked like the run to her, seeing her in the yard. Coat still wasn't right yet. She was tightening up. I think that run should bring her up perfectly. She did not handle the wet one bit.
Yep.
Dry track, next start, she's rock hard fit. As long as she finds a suitable right race, I think she's probably the one for me to follow out of the race. Breakfast in bed, still going well, looks extremely well, and I think she just needs to kind of come back in the weights and find a slightly firmer track if she is
very delicious. How much is left there?
She's
holding it.
I think she's just holding it.
Yeah.
I don't want to comment and say she could be gone next start.
No.
But
she's just holding. Improving, but she's just.
I don't think there's no improvement fitness wise to her. She is thriving at the moment, seems to be going well. I'd just be assessing her yard to yard.
Race by race.
Yeah, race by race, yeah.
Okay. One more race we're having a look at, were we?
Yeah, so the Shiraz and Casual Choice. Shiraz has come back exceptional.
Yeah, such a good win.
He's quite a leggy, he's a real kind of leggy bloke. He's really long, quite gangly. He did come back a lot stronger this time in. But that run didn't take anything off in first half. He looked outstanding. He looked like a little bit tighter, but he hasn't lightened off or anything like that, which was a bit of a problem for him in the past. Now he looks outstanding, and I'd be surprised to see him not parade well again.
Okay.
Casual Choice, he's fat as a pig first start. He did tighten up from the run, but he still needed another run, possibly one more.
Okay.
So yeah, he's there, and I believe that is it. The rest of the card was take it off.
Okay, no worries. Well, thanks, Az, for the trials and the mounting yard report.
You're welcome, man. We'll see Dallas back here next week.
We will. Plenty of news there from Aaron. Here you are, Aaron.
Yes, I'm back.
That was good. I think we haven't done it yet, but I'm sure it was good.
That was good. It was outstanding.
No, that was great. So we're gonna do that every week, like we have.
Dallas will be back next week. Yeah.
Dallas will be back. Yeah, Dallas couldn't make it today, and we're gonna do a catch up now. Well, we're gonna throw to your catch up with Nick Ashman and talking about the latest from Randwick track work.
Yeah, a couple of key horses that Nick circled, and a quick chat about some of the ones I was interested in. Back down at the wonderful Royal Randwick with Nick Ashman for a little scoop on what's happening.
Track work?
Track work.
Not a lot this morning. The fog was pretty bad. It was terrible actually, so you can still see a bit of it behind us. 4 horses this week. Jouer, Barton James Cummings horse.
Yes.
2-year-old. I think it will get out to a mile or close to it in one race this week or around that distance. Keep an eye on Ed, he's taking good improvement. He's a pretty good looking horse.
Yeah, he has looked a big strong type from the yard.
Yeah, you guys can be all over
gross,
it. Yeah, he's a nice horse. I think he's probably more of a second and third prep style of horse.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be surprised if he put his best foot forward this weekend. Global Domination for Gaze come back enormous.
Yep.
Expecting him to just about win on Saturday.
Yep. Do you think he'll be headed towards the carnival?
Yeah, I think so. He's a horse in his work. If you're watching, he runs. He's good at right up there with the better times. He runs the same times as the group horses during carnival, and he's just been a bit of one of those funny horses. You get to the races and he sort of doesn't quite do it. But then last prep he put it together a bit, put a couple of wins together, and I think he's come back a better horse. Helford River. I don't know if they'll run tomorrow at Warwick Farm or Canterbury on Saturday. Wherever he goes back in the next start, he'll be winning.
Beautiful.
And Cumbran for Sarge.
Cumbran, is it in tomorrow?
Yeah, I think it's in tomorrow. The farm over about 1100, I think.
Yeah.
Just been given a freshen up since his first up run. Still nice and fresh, but he's got a little bit of extra fitness. And if you look at his run at Kembla, looks bad on paper, but I don't think he had hope of winning the race.
He trialled absolutely enormous leading into the run. It was
so I'd be having to keep an eye on him.
Another one from me, and it's a horse that I'm very interested in for the carnival.
Yep.
Pride of Dubai. Have you seen him?
I've seen him. I haven't clocked him. He gets his horses out very early, and when it gets into the depth of carnival, I get out here real early. But at the moment, it's just a little bit too much. But he looks awesome. I know you're very sweet on him, and he's he looks really, really good. So he's taken that development that you'd want to see, and some I'd say, so you'll be pretty happy when you see it.
Exciting. Exciting times ahead. Alright, well, thank you again. If you want Nick Ashman's tips, go to oneToFollow.trackwork.com.au.
Alright, it's always good to get Nick's insights down at Randwick, and look, as Aaron said, if you want to grab his tips, oneToFollow.com.au, it's the track tips, and him and Warren Huntley team up for $10 a week, and they give you the best from Flemington and Randwick.
Yeah, I think they had a real big day last Wednesday.
Had a massive day, yeah. They're tipping at least twice a week, so real good value, and the boys are flying.
Gives you that little bit of extra confidence, especially those first up and second up horses this time of year.
Exactly. Look, once again, this Saturday is the Bletchingley Stakes meeting at Caulfield. Top Better have a minimum $10,000 tournament up for grabs, so as we said, jump online, grab your mates and enter that tournament. Take on the Glenster, take on yourself and some of the big names, and there'll be. But it always comes down to the last race. These things.
Yeah, it's always exciting. Even when you get knocked out, I found it quite interesting watch those last two races unfold. It is exciting.
Before we leave for another week, a quick look at the week ahead in Sydney. What are you interested in and having a bet at this week?
Yeah, I think we're at Warwick Farm today for the viewers watching.
Yep.
2-year-old race, quite interesting. I think there's the leading 3 or 4 chance in the race. I think all will be nice horses and we'll all go on to win their fair share of races moving forward. There's a nice little filly of Waller's that she's quite immature but does look to have a good little bit of ability, and I think she'll be a better horse in 6 to 12 months.
Okay.
And then we've got Gosford Thursday, and we've got that Canterbury Standalone Saturday.
I think that's great, having a Saturday at Canterbury. Personally, I think there should be more of it. But
this time of year,
it's great.
I think this time of year it's just a no-brainer. Look, we've seen all the tracks. Like Rose Hill seems to be coping with it, but Randwick isn't. Warwick Farm's completely gone. It's we just need to use those tracks a lot more, even if they threw to a Saturday, possibly Newcastle, just to break it up.
Yeah, I'm all for a bit of change. But look, you'll be previewing those through your Sydney Insider set.
Yeah, we'll be doing a preview then. We've got the preview show on Friday.
Yeah, Aaron's making his, it's not a debut, but officially stepping into his new role on the preview show with Mark and Dallas, so that'll be good.
Yes, we had to send someone back to the Reggies, but...
And I'll be moving out and doing a Melbourne preview with Darren Potter, which is exciting.
Yeah, I think Matt's a little bit too busy, and he gets to choose where he wants to bet, and now he's doing Melbourne after one big day, so we'll let Matt spread his wings and fly.
Can't miss now. But no, look, once again, thanks for watching our show. Hope you enjoyed Brenton, and we'll have a new guest on next week.
Excellent.